What's up, it's your boy for another reaction. In today's video, we have the man who created Shooto MMA, who is SATORU SAYAMA, by Who is MMA. Shall I come to shop? Let's get into it.
舐めてんのか？いや、舐めてないです。思いっきりガスで！思いっきり
What the fuck?
ガスがお前の！やってみようら！殺すぞこの野郎！ほら、稽古の野郎！
Hey everyone, as a huge fan of
So he created MMA?
MMA, I've been going back and learning about all the legends of the sport I love, and I want to bring you guys along with me. So today we're finding out who is As a young boy, Sayama would sit in his school's judo club, but his eyes were often drifted elsewhere. Not because he lacked interest in the techniques, but because his ambitions were fixed on something much bigger. Satoru Sayama was born in Japan in 1957, during a time where pop culture was dominated by professional wrestling icons like Reikido-san. In high school, he joined the wrestling team and became a competitive amateur wrestler, even winning the prefectural tournament. That competitive base would quietly set the foundation for everything that would come later. After graduation, he moved to Tokyo with one goal: to join New Japan Pro Wrestling, which was founded by his idol, Antonio Inoki. At just 17 years old, he showed up at the doorstep of the NJPW Academy, but he was rejected. Standing at only 5'6", he was told he was too small to succeed as a professional wrestler. But
Man, son, bro, Daniel Bryan is one of the greatest wrestlers ever. Okay, I don't want to hear all that. You too small. Even though you know niggas, they do attract more to the bigger guys. You know, the Roman Reigns, the fucking 6'2" niggas, yeah, and shit like that.
Sayama kept returning.
But I feel like it's multiple niggas that succeeded in wrestling at a smaller size. Jeff Hardy, CM Punk, like Rey Mysterio.
Eventually, in the summer
Legends, my nigga. Like, Hall of Fame wrestlers.
of 1974, the NJPW accepted him into the dojo system. Inside that environment, he trained under Inoki and Carl Gotch, a catch wrestling specialist who emphasized realism and
What the fuck? That's not good for you, especially when you older. All them neck exercises. Mike Tyson said that shit. Like, your shit gonna be fucked up.
legitimate submission holds. That exposure changed how Sayama viewed combat. He became fascinated with joint locks and the authenticity of the techniques and training style, but most importantly, with the idea that wrestling could be more than just performance. In 1977, he also started training at Mahiro's gym, adding kickboxing to his foundation. Striking, grappling, wrestling. The pieces were forming. With his success at NJPW, Sayama traveled through Europe and Latin America, performing in pro wrestling shows and rising through the ranks. But even in scripted wrestling, he stood out. He incorporated real striking mechanics and submission transitions.
What the hell? What type of wrestling? Yeah, this nigga do a real striking and scripted wrestling matches, man. He just do a fucking spinning kick
to his style, something he would refer to as shooting. In 1981, he returned to Japan under a new persona, Tiger Mask. He shocked the audience with aerial techniques and explosive speed.
Damn.
He became one of the most influential junior heavyweights of his era, even inspiring the development
And that was a late ass sale, my nigga.
of a character in an upcoming video game called Tekken. The boy who once stood outside the dojo doors had made it. He was a star, and yet something was missing. Behind the mask, Sayama grew increasingly frustrated with the predetermined outcomes. He wanted fighting to be tested and not
Nigga, fight some real fights, my nigga. Like, this scripted wrestling, of course, that shit predetermined.
staged. In 1983, at the height of his fame, he removed the mask and walked away. In 1985, Sayama founded Shooto. Shooto wasn't created as a promotion at first. It was a combat system and a new martial art, It blended catch wrestling, judo, sambo, kickboxing, and Muay Thai. It was one of the earliest structured attempts at combining striking and grappling into a unified rule set, years before the term MMA was widely used. Between 1986 and 1989, Shooto evolved. It held its first amateur event around 1986, and by 1989, professional Shooto bouts were taking place. These were organised, regulated, mixed-style fights, years before the first UFC event in 1993. Importantly, Shooto wasn't built as a spectacle. It had rankings, weight classes, an amateur pipeline, and a development structure. It was treated as a sport. Historically, Vale Tudo in Brazil was not an organisation. It was a rule concept. No centralised body, just minimal rule fights promoted locally. In 1994, Shooto staged an event called Vale Tudo Japan, one of the first organised attempts to bring Brazil's minimal rule fighting traditions into a structured Japanese setting. The tournament featured elite representatives from different disciplines, most notably Rickson Gracie, whose presence brought immediate legitimacy and global attention. For SAYAMA, this wasn't just matchmaking. It was an opportunity to test his system in a true style versus style competition. Fighters from Shooto, including his protege, Yuki Nakai, stepped into that environment to represent the hybrid philosophy Sayama had been developing for nearly a decade. The experience forced evolution. Vale Tudo Japan exposed Japanese fighters to high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu under real resistance, and in response, Shooto's rules
Them niggas started getting choked out.
began to change, gradually permitting more ground striking and moving closer to what would later resemble full mixed martial arts competition. This period played a significant role in shaping Japan's early MMA identity. And while Vale Tudo Japan was not the direct blueprint for future promotions, it contributed to the competitive culture that later allowed organizations
Yeah, wrestling is, Brazil is known for their jiu-jitsu, boy. Their wrestling.
like Pride to emerge and thrive in the late 1990s. In 1996, Sayama left Shooto after disagreements with the board and the management. He stepped away from direct control from the organization he founded, but Shooto continued. It expanded internationally, providing a platform for many future champions like Anderson Silva. Shooto became one of the longest-running MMA organizations in the world, and even without
Damn, that don't even look like Anderson Silva game. What the hell?
Sayama at the helm, the structure he built
Well, all them fights aged this ass.
endured. Satoru Sayama didn't build his legacy on fight records. He built it on structure. Before MMA was standardized, before unified rules, before global promotions, he created a system where mixed martial arts could exist as a sport. He didn't dominate an era, he helped design one.
Make sure I count. Oh. Let's see what final thoughts.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me as always. Not much to add on this one, but I really feel like we're starting to
I
build
didn't even know this. He created MMA. Make sure I count subscribe and all do so this in the 70s. This was before the first UFC event was in the 90s, he said. That's crazy.